Thank you very much, councillors, members of senior staff, the clergy and the press, the gallery. A warm welcome to you to Temora Shire Council's meeting for November, and I declare the meeting open. I advise that this meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Temora Shire Council's webpage for public information. The Mayor and councillors, of course, are reminded of our oath and affirmation of office made under Section 23A of the Local Government Act 1993 and our obligations under the Council's Code of Conduct to disclose and appropriately manage conflicts of interest. All present today, we're reminded whilst we're speaking that we agree that our views and comments are being recorded and published. And we're also reminded that if or when we're speaking, that we're of course to be respectful to others and use appropriate language. Temora Shire Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this council meeting. I now invite Auxiliary Lieutenant Caleb Smith to deliver our opening prayer. Thank you.
Dear God, thank you for Temora Shire. Thank you for all those people that do the hard and often thankless work that keeps this place ticking over. In particular, we think of our council staff and our councillors. Please bless them as they go in to do their work this afternoon, as they face a very large number of issues, both big and small. Please guide them as they make those decisions. As we come towards the end of the year, we pray, as we do every year, for a good harvest, and we pray for a safe harvest as well. We also think of those for whom 2024 maybe has not been the best of years. In particular, we think of small business owners having a rough time in what's been a pretty unforgiving financial kind of climate. So, dear God, we ask for your blessing over them. We ask for a bumper Christmas season and for a prosperous 2025. And finally, dear God, with December around the corner, we thank you for how special Christmas can be in this corner of the world. How special it is out here, and that no one has to be alone at Christmas time. So, dear God, we pray again for a very safe, a very special, and a very, very, very Merry Christmas for 2024. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Lovely words. Now we proceed to our acknowledgement of country. As we begin our meeting today, Temora Shire Council acknowledge the traditional owners of Temora Shire's land and waters, the Wiradjuri people. We acknowledge their continued connection to country and culture, and we pay our heartfelt respects to elders both past and present, acknowledging their contribution to the Temora Shire community, a place we all call home. So thank you very much. We now go to apologies. We have an apology from Councillor Bushell, apology from the Director of Environmental Services, Mr Dunstan acknowledged that the Acting Director is the Town Planner, Mrs Galder. Further apologies? No further apologies. Someone moved that they be approved. Thank you, Councillor Smith. The Deputy Mayor moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. We now go to councillors, senior staff and members of the gallery to an important part of this meeting, and that is we will be observing a moment's silence, and that is in honour of the late Mr Doug Oliver, and we note in the chamber we have Mrs Betty Oliver, who is here representing the family. Mr Oliver was a former Citizen of the Year back in 2009. I think the Deputy Mayor, who's the Chairman of the Australia Council, was quite shocked and didn't think it was that long ago. But it certainly was, and we know that Mr Oliver was certainly heavily involved in the Historical Society, the Bundawarra Centre, Rural Fire Service, and many, many other Temora Shire organisations, and the most worthy recipient of that honour. So as we reflect on Mr Oliver and his passing, I'd ask us all assembled in the chamber to please rise in your places and observe a moment's silence in honour of the late Doug Oliver. Thank you very much. And again, Mrs. Oliver, we're grateful that you could be here on behalf of the family. Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed to any declaration of any interest at this time, please. Any declarations? No? If not, then you can raise it. Councillor Irvine.
There's a matter coming up from the Heritage Committee, request for some funding that I've got a pecuniary interest in.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. That's noted. We go to Councillor Smith.
Yeah, no, I've got a non-pecuniary interest because there's a letter there from the Temora Shire Society as a life member and patron, but I'm a non-pecuniary interest.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. I go to Councillor Dukic.
Also, the same matter as Councillor Smith, being the president of the current show society, have an interest as well.
Thank you, Councillor Dukic. Further declarations? If not, we have now, we proceed to confirmation of minutes, and we have two lots of minutes for Council to adopt. The first is the ordinary meeting of Temora Shire Council held on the 17th of October. Is someone that was present care to move that be received as true and correct? Thank you. Councillor Dukic, Councillor Judd, moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Any matters arising out of those, Madam General Manager?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no there isn't. Thank you.
Thank you. The next minutes to consider, Council, is the extraordinary Council meeting. It's a fine. We've got a fine here for the Christmas fund. Extraordinary meeting of Temora Shire Council held on the 24th of October. Someone that was present care to move that they be received as true and correct. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Any matters arising out of those minutes, Madam General Manager, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no there isn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we shall proceed to listening to our auditors. So I would like to ask for a motion to set aside standing orders for us to listen to Miss Danielle McKenzie from Crow and maybe Mr Jeffrey from the New South Wales Audit Office. No, it looks like it's just Ms McKenzie. So could I have a motion, please, to set aside standing orders? Thank you, Councillor Judd. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Now, Ms McKenzie from Crow, our auditors, a warm welcome to you on behalf of councillors, our staff and the gallery, and we look forward to considering the audited statements a little later in our very large business paper, but we're delighted to have you. Whoops, we were delighted. Oh no.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for having me this afternoon. What you've got there presented is the audited general purpose financial statements for Temora Shire Council for the year ended 30 June 2024. And what we did express in terms of the audit opinion for this year is that we expressed an unmodified audit opinion. So that is different to the previous financial year. In the previous financial year, you received a qualified audit opinion in relation to non-recognition of the RFS assets. In the 2024 year, we've obtained sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to determine the existence and evaluation of those assets and to determine them to not be material to council. And as a result, we've removed that qualification from the audit opinion. So an unmodified audit opinion was issued for 2024. I will cover just briefly the report on the conduct of the audit, which covers an overview of the financial results and the key performance indicators as set by the Office of Local Government. So for the 30 June 2024 financial year, Council's operating result from continuing operations was 7.1 million, which was an increase of 0.6 million on the previous financial year. Rates and annual charges revenue was 6.6 million, which was an increase of 4.7 million, an increase of 4.7%. And that's mainly due to the rate paid percentage of 3.7%.
So we're on page 512, councillors. 512 if you're wishing to make reference to what Mrs Mackenzie's talking about. Ms Mackenzie, you have the call. Ms Mackenzie, you have the call.
Sorry?
You're back on. You may speak, continue speaking.
Thank you. In terms of council's grants and contributions revenue was 17.9 million, which was an increase of 1.1 million on the previous financial year. So there was an increase of 1.8 million of developer contributions and an increase in grants received on the regional local roads repair program, offset by a reduction of 1.5 million. So council only received 85% of the financial assistance grant in advance this financial year. Council's cash and cash equivalents was 9.9 million at 30 June 2024, and that was an increase of 6.3 million during the 2024 financial year. In terms of council's financial position, council's cash and investment sits at 30.5 million. Of that, there's 9.1 million of external restrictions, which is mainly in relation to unexpended grants and the sewer fund and domestic waste management, and then internal allocations of $20.2 million. A slight increase there on the previous financial year, mainly in relation to grants held for the regional local repairs program, and also 1.1 million increase in the Pinnacle internal reserve. Council has debt or borrowings of 2.2 million, and they're secured loans, and that's a reduction of 0.5 million on the previous financial year. Then in terms of council's performance, all councils are measured against the key performance benchmarks set by the Office of Local Government. There's 6 key performance indicators that all councils are measured against, and council meets 5 of those 6 KPIs, and of that 6, one is sitting just outside by like minute percentage, so almost meet on all 6 of those KPIs at 30 June 2024. In terms of council's operating performance ratio, which measures how well council's contained its operating expenditure within its operating revenue, that was sitting at 1.26% for this financial year, which exceeds the benchmark, which is set at 0. Your own source operating revenue, which is the one KPI that you don't actually meet, this year it's actually sitting at 59.3%, the benchmark being 60%, so almost meeting on that benchmark. And that's an increase on the previous financial year, and this ratio really fluctuates year on year depending on the level of grants that council's receiving. In terms of council's unrestricted current ratio, that's sitting at 4.7 times, and that ratio has really remained stable over the last couple of years, so not much movement in that, and it's well exceeding the benchmark set. Council's debt service cover ratio, which measures the operating cash available to service its debt, is sitting at 16.8 times and is relatively stable in the previous financial year, and it is significantly higher than the Office of Local Government's benchmark. Similarly, the rates and annual charges outstanding percentage has stayed relatively stable, and it's assessing the impact of the uncollected rate against amendment charges on council's liquidity and the adequacy of council's collection and recovery efforts. So that sits at 3.68%, which is quite a bit below the benchmark, and is sitting quite low and has remained quite stable over the last couple of financial years. The final ratio is the cash expense cover ratio. It's a liquidity equity ratio which measures the number of months council can continue paying for its immediate expenses without requiring additional cash flow. And it's currently sitting at 11 and a half months, quite a bit higher than the 3-month benchmark as set by the Office of Local Government. So those performance ratios are all looking consistent with previous years and quite a bit above the benchmark set by the Office of Local Government. The only exception being, I guess, the own source operating revenue ratio, which again is sitting quite close to the benchmark. That's an overview of the financial statements, and I'd just like to finish by thanking the finance team for their efforts and assistance that they provided to us throughout the audit process. It was much appreciated.
Thank you, Ms Mackenzie. Thank you very, very much for that. I have to tell you, we are delighted, and that's an understatement, that we have, of course, a qualified audit. Unqualified, I beg your pardon, as opposed to the qualified in previous years, but it just goes to show that if you truly believe in something, as we have, and 30-something other councils across New South Wales, you've got to stand firm. And we're very, very pleased that common sense is prevailing, acknowledging that you as auditors have a job to do. But thank you for your kind words about our director and our finance team. We're very proud of them as well, so thank you. Councillors, any comments or questions of our auditor, Mrs Mackenzie? Councillor Judd.
Councillor Judd, my usual annual question, but I'll do it for the sake of our new councillors, and I'll refer to the comments on page 526 and 532 where it lists the council law's responsibilities for the financial statements. Just like your interpretation of we as councillors, what we are supposed to do, and are we liable if there's something wrong?
Thank you, Councillor Judd. Mrs Mackenzie.
So I guess in terms of council's obligations, so you should understand that the financial results of council and its compliance with both the accounting standards and the code of accounting practice. And I guess management have given you the information that you need to be able to sign off on those accounts. And from an audit perspective, we've audited those numbers and are comfortable with them and have issued an unmodified audit opinion.
Thank you. You're happy, Councillor Judd?
Oh, not really. I'd like to know just how much we should be involved in looking at the finances of our council, or should we just trust our staff and say, well, give them a big tick every year? So.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. Well, I think it's always, as my understanding, that if there's, even now, I had some questions and sit down with the director and the general manager and talk them through, and I'm sure that other councillors, or I remind other councillors that opportunity is always open. But I think, Councillor Judd, you're right in raising it, because there is a responsibility there. So thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, thank you again for that, Ms Mackenzie, for presenting. Do we get any discounts in our auditor fees this year?
Unfortunately, that is not for me to decide.
You did well there, quickly on your feet. No, thank you, Mrs Mackenzie, very much. And again, we are very proud of our finance team. So thank you again, and we'll bid you farewell.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Motion, please resume standing orders. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Seconder. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sinclair moves. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you very much. Well, councillors, we do have, as you may have gathered, a heck of a lot to get through this evening in our business papers, and I thank the General Manager for ringing our newly elected councillors just to remind them that this is not a monthly occurrence necessarily. Just a reminder that, we've missed a few months, of course, during caretaker elections, etc. So I'll just remind us all, if we keep rolling as best we can this evening, that would be terrific. Dinner will be in-house here that the Executive Assistant has arranged very, very kindly for us. So, with those words, let's go to page 11, the minutes of Council's Assets and Operations Committee report. I was the acting chairman for that committee. Someone moved that the Assets and Operations Committee report be received. Thank you. Councillor Smith, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Councillors, you have the report there of the Assets and Operations Committee and the recommendations that the committee have put to you. Someone prepared to move the report and recommendations? The Deputy. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Moved, seconded for the motion. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Moved, seconded. Discussion. There's no discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, we then proceed all the way over to, would you believe, page 186, the minutes of Council's Economic Development Visitations Committee report, and Councillor Judd's the chairman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll move the report be received.
Thank you. Councillor Judd's moved the report received. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Dukic. Moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillor Judd, do you have any items you wish to highlight to the chamber?
There's just 3 items for the IP&R update and the drought resilience plan and the inland rail temporary workers housing. So any questions?
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Councillors, you have the Economic Development Visitations Committee report there for you to consider and its recommendations. Someone prepared to move those recommendations, or is there an alternate motion? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
So I'll move the reports, please.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor's moved that the report recommendations be adopted. Seconded for the motion, Councillor Smith. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Discussion. No discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's go to page 203, the delegates' reports. Now, Madam General Manager, I understand that there's a template that you've sent out to us. Some of us perhaps didn't necessarily utilise it this time. However, we will learn for next time. So do we have delegates' report? Just to remind the chamber that the delegates' reports, there's a form that you may remember receiving that if we've been delegated to represent council to a committee, a function, an event, that we fill that out, give it to the, send it to the General Manager or the Executive Assistant, and it just assists with filling out the delegates' reports at our council meetings and saves some time. So, no delegates' reports?
I just mentioned about the conference at Tamworth. We plan to have a full report at the December meeting on that conference.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Judd, and Council thanks you and Councillor Hawken and the General Manager for representing Temora Shire. I unfortunately was a late withdrawal, but thank you very much, and we look forward to receiving the report. in due course. Further delegates' reports? Councillor Hawken.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I sent through a delegate report for the Re-Rock Councillor induction training that was held on Saturday the 9th of November 2024. Do we just want a summary of that?
You just feel free to give a brief explanation.
Yeah. So the event was just designed to provide incoming councillors with the essential knowledge required to effectively fulfil their duties and responsibilities in local government. The training covered 5 key areas. So there was 5 topics. The first one was just an introduction to local government, so an overview of local government in New South Wales. Topic 2 were the roles, responsibilities and relationships. So the sort of key takeaway was just clarity on individual roles and the importance of communication within council. Topic 3 was the governance. Topic 4, planning and reporting. And topic 5, land use and planning. So just from I guess my perspective, so my participation in the Re-Rock Council induction training, it's sort of equipped me with a sound understanding of local government operations, governance, planning and land use and management. And this will support me in my role as a councillor and my contributions to Temora Shire Council. And I particularly would like to thank Mrs Julie Briggs, the outgoing CEO of Re-Rock, Councillor David McCann, the Mayor of Coolman Shire, Ms Melissa Boxall, the GM of Temora Shire, Tony Donoghue, GM of Coolman Shire, and James Davis, GM of Junee Shire, for their detailed presentations and rich contributions to the discussions on the day. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Hawken. And yes, I couldn't go to this one, but I went to the one that we did some years ago, and I thought it was outstanding. So it's great to hear your reflections and others that I've heard from around the region. So thank you, Councillor Hawken. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, I went across to that. I was interested to hear Lindsay Taylor speak, but he wasn't there. So there was no, he was listed in the to be confirmed, but there was no further correspondence on that. So that was a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Irvine. Councillor Mann.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I attended the LCMC meeting on the 12th of the 11th, and the minutes have been forwarded through to the General Manager.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Mann. Further, Councillor Irvine? Oh, no. Thank you. Councillor, just to advise and remind, Councillor Hawken mentioned our soon-to-be retired CEO of Re-Rock. Well, Mrs Briggs will be retiring officially on the 1st of December of this year, and there will be a dinner held in her honour on the 12th of December in Wagga Wagga, and of course the last board meeting's the following day on the 13th. I thank the General Manager for coordinating the dinner for Mrs Briggs. Very, very grateful for the time and effort in coordinating gifts, etc., etc. And I know that she'll appreciate it. And but also, whilst it's sad in many ways losing Mrs Briggs to the role, it's also exciting to consider the new chapter that we're about to embark on with our new CEO. Mrs Megan Mulrooney, who we're at a conference yesterday that mapped out, which we had Temora Shire staff member Mrs Amanda Colwell present, and it was Mrs Briggs' last conference, and the warm reception that she received from all of those present was fantastic. So I wanted to mention that to you. I likewise wanted to mention that during the General Manager visit, we had a visit with the Minister for Local Government whilst we were in Sydney recently. And it's interesting that the Minister's suggesting that he'd like to consider dismantling the integrated planning and reporting mechanisms, IP&R, as you probably recognise it being abbreviated to. However, not sure quite what replacement he has in mind, but he certainly has flagged that, which we found quite interesting. And further, in relation to the meeting that we had with Minister for Agriculture, she had two of her senior bureaucrats meet with us with the member for Cootamundra about the Temora Agriculture Innovation Centre, and we've had a discussion with the Deputy Mayor, who's chairman of the Innovation Centre Management Committee, that they're quite keen to have a stakeholder round table. So we'll work on that and keep council informed in relation to that, because ultimately this council can't continue to contribute in financial terms to the extent that we are. We've expressed that to the government, and so let's see what the round table may bring, but we'll keep council informed. So thank you. Any further delegates' reports? If not, let us proceed to page 204, 10.1, the Mayor's report for the month of August. There's a recommendation on page 207 that the Mayor's report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Hawken. Councillor Mann, thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Over to page 208, 10.2, the Acting Mayor's report for the month of September. And there's a recommendation, page 210, that the Acting Mayor's report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Councillor Hawken, moved. Seconded. Discussion. No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Page 211, 10.3, the Mayor's report for the month of October. The recommendation on page 213 that the report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Thank you, Councillor Hawken. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. There's no discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. On the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, we now proceed to page 214, and motion please receive staff reports. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Councillor Dukic, thank you. Moved. Seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. On the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Now, let's go to page 215, the General Manager's report, 12.1, the calendar of events for November, the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. The calendar of events indicates, I suppose, that we're coming to that busy time of the year. There's just a couple of additions that I would like noted on the calendar of events. As you've previously mentioned, the Mapped Out conference has been held by ReRock on the 27th and 28th of November. And just the Mayor's Christmas Bundawarra Volunteers event on the 5th of December has had to be deferred. So that date is inaccurate at this time. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you've heard from the General Manager with those, addition and deletion. You have a recommendation there on the bottom of page 215, calendar events be noted with those amendments. Thank you, Councillor Judd. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. Just for those that mightn't know, the Dusty Boots. Now, some of you may know, some of you may not, but the Dusty Boots of the Oran Park Anglican College, that they come and donate a week of their time to help, particularly seniors or community groups within Temora Shire. It's just fantastic, and we put on an afternoon tea for them, which they deeply appreciate, and the amount of kindness and work that they do to help our community, particularly our elders and seniors, it's very special. So that's just to further clarify Dusty Boots. If there's no discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. On the contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Over to page 216, 12.2, the seals, General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, the report's as written. I'm happy to take any questions if necessary.
Thank you. Council, you have the report there and a recommendation that Council endorse the seal. If there's any council that would like explanation, just thinking of our newer councillors. The Director of Administration and Finance, you might just like to explain, please.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So the document that's had the seal affixed to it is a deed of variation in relation to the loan agreement with Dr Parry Homes. We had an existing loan agreement with them in relation to the purchase of the land at Apollo Place. And this was a variation to that deed in accordance with a council resolution of the previous council. So a development application fee of $29,000 odd was added to the value of that interest-free loan with Dr Parry Memorial Homes.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, you have the recommendation there for you to consider. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
There I'll move the endorse the seal being fixed.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor's moved that way. Is there a second for the motion, please? Councillor Judd, thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Over to page 217, 12.3, Operational Plan Quarter 1 Review. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is a report giving an overview of what's been achieved for the first quarter of this financial year, which is July through to September, in relation to our operational plan. You'll see that it will give progress updates throughout the year as we implement the operational plan. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, comments, questions in relation to the operational plan? I go to Councillor Hawken.
Just a comment on the plan. I found it really quite easy to see where we're up to with the flags and the traffic light system. So it's great to see so many aspects of the plan we're progressing on.
Thank you, Councillor Hawken. Further comments, Councillor Judd.
Just a comment on page 246 on the Roads Hierarchy Committee. One thing that came out of the REROC training day in Wagga was that both Mayor Dave McCann and Tony Donahue mentioned about Coolman Shire with the new councillors had a roads hierarchy meeting straight away to brief their new councillors on their update of their hierarchy with their roads. And anyway, I was disappointed that we sort of scrapped our committee, but it's interesting to see that Coolman's sort of using it very well.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. I understand that there's supposed to be some form of briefing in the new year as part of the assets and operations in due course. So thank you, Councillor Judd. Further comments in relation to the quarterly review? If not, there is, you can see there's a heck of a lot going on in Temora Shire, and General Manager and the Directors, Managers and all of our staff are busy as bees. There is a recommendation there, councillors, for you to consider that the operational plan Quarter 1 review for 2024-25 be noted, or is there an alternate view? Thank you. Councillor Hawken.
I move the recommendation.
Thank you. Yeah. Seconder. Thank you. Councillor Judd moved. Seconded. Further discussion? No further discussion. Put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 285, 12.4, disclosure of interest returns. New councillors, the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, this is a requirement in terms of the legislation in which these must be reported within 3 months of the election for new councillors. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam General Manager. Councillor Dukic, you have the call.
Yes, Mayor Thurman. In one of my disclosures, I have put property owned by myself as 14 Lake Street, Temora. It's now being corrected. It actually is Lake Street, Lake Albert in Wagga Wagga.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor Dukic, for that clarification. And that's duly noted. Thank you. Councillors, any other comments? If not, with that, of course, amendment that Councillor Dukic referred to, Is someone prepared to move that council note the disclosure of interest returns in Councillor Dukic's, her amendment? Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair. Thank you, Councillor Hawken. Moved, seconded. Discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those with that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, over to page 294, 12.5, submission to the Office of Local Government Council Conduct Framework Review, the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. I sought feedback from councillors in relation to the framework review discussion paper. I've incorporated feedback received from those councillors that sent information through to me in this submission, along with feedback that was collected through the REROC board through the preparation of their submission as well. Happy to take any questions in relation to it. It is due tomorrow, and it will be submitted once, if it is endorsed by council, it will be submitted tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Madam General Manager, and well done on that particular report. I think that reflects our position very, very well. Thank you. Councillors, you have read the report, read the policy. There's a recommendation there on page 296 for Council to consider that we endorse the draft submission, the Office of Local Government Councillor Conduct Framework, and that it be sent to the OLG for their consideration. Councillor Irvine.
I've been subjected to 4 of these codes of conduct, and I believe the system's completely broken, and I don't support anything in this submission. The whole thing's an absolute train wreck.
So, thanks, Councillor Irvine. Did you put those views, did you share those with the General Manager?
No.
Right. Well, we all had an opportunity, Councillor, so I think it's unfortunate that you weren't able to do that. However, I thank the councillors that were able to. Councillors, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move that the report be accepted and congratulate the General Manager on putting the report together. I think it covers everything pretty well.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Seconder for the motion, seconded Councillor Judd. Thank you. Further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried, noting Councillor Irvine's dissent. So thank you very much. And again, reiterating the Deputy Mayor's words, thank you, Madam General Manager, for the manner in which that report was compiled. Easy to read, easy to follow. So thank you. Let's hope Minister and OLG pay heed to what we have to say, and many others across the state, as I understand, have a similar tone to ours. So let's go to page 305, 12.6, the end of term report, the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, this is one of the legislative requirements of the integrated planning and reporting process. It gives a summary and overview of what was achieved in the last term of council, and once it's endorsed by council, the document will be put up on our website for the community to access. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. I think we've all received hard copies of the report, and I think it come up very, 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 very well. So well done to whomever were involved in its compilation. They've done well. Councillors, you have a report and recommendation there for you to consider that Council endorse the end of term report for 2021-2024. Someone wish to move that way, or is there an alternate? Councillor Sinclair, the Deputy Mayor.
I'll move the recommendation that we endorse the end of term report.
Thank you. Seconder for the motion, please. Thank you, councillor Dukic. Moved, seconded. Discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare that carried. Thank you. Over to page 306, 12.7, the annual report for 2023-2024, the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, this is similar to the previous report, that it's a legislative requirement to prepare an annual report. This document will be also published to our website to be made available to our community, but also it is sent to the Office of Local Government as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. You have the report there, councillors, for you to consider and a recommendation. Councillor Mann, you're happy to move that the council adopt the recommendation that we endorse the annual report. Is there a seconder for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Judd. Moved, seconded, discussion. No discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. On the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Page 307, 12.8, application under Veranda Reinstatement Program, the Railway Hotel.
I need to declare an interest in this. I'll leave.
Thank you. Councillor Irvine has declared the interest and left the chamber. Thanks, Councillor Irvine. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This has come through to me as a final sign-off for this particular report. It would usually go to the Director of Environmental Services, but he has declared an interest in relation to this matter. We have the Town Planner who's available to answer any questions that you may have about the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Does the Acting Director have any comments she wishes to make?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no comments at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillors, you have the report there before you to consider. Certainly is a lot of money from a small pot, but nonetheless, it's there for Council to consider. Councillor, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, normally like $10,000 is the total budget, yearly budget for this Heritage Committee, and normally I would have said that was probably spending all the money, all that budget on the one item, but considering we do have $15,000 in reserve, and I agree with the recommendation, and happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, is moving the recommendation, page 308, that Council approve the application from the owners of the Railway Hotel Temora for payment of $10,000 from the Heritage Veranda Reinstatement Program. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Mann. Moved, seconded, discussion, Councillor Judd.
Councillor Sinclair's information, we actually have two funds for hotels able to draw on. We have our normal fund, and you might see later in the minutes that we allocate, I think, $5,000 out of that ordinary fund towards the work. And we, only 2 years ago, we started this Veranda Reinstatement Fund, and that's a new fund, and we've allocated $10,000 out of it, so the hotel is really going to get probably 15 out of two funds. So.
Thanks, Councillor Judd, for that clarity. Sits on the Heritage Committee as well, so thank you. Discussion on the motion, further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. And look, councillors, we've got to, give the Railway Hotel credit. We're all pleased that they're investing in their business and in turn the Temora Shire, so that's fantastic. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Anything of an urgent, late nature from the General Manager? Councillor Irvine, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Hawken. Thank you. Welcome back to the chamber, Councillor Irvine. During your temporary absence, Council unanimously resolved to adopt the recommendation on page 308 on the motion of the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, and seconded Councillor Mann. So, thank you. Anything of an urgent late nature, Madam General Manager?
No, through you, Mr Mayor, no there isn't, thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to page 309, the Engineering Services Department report, 13.1. One of his favourite subjects, and that is get active grant.
Definitely not very active. Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I guess the report is as written and I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thanks, Mr Manager, Executive Manager. Councillors, you have the report there, the Get New South Wales Active Grant application, the recommendation there for you to consider that council note the report. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I'll move that recommendation.
Thank you. Seconder for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Hawken. Moved, seconded, discussion. No discussion. Discussion, the Deputy Mayor.
Oh, no, just make comment on that, even if you only get one of these grants, well, one part of it is still a big step forward in our footpaths. I think it's both of them are quite big distances, so yeah, hopefully we can at least score funding for one of them.
At least one, exactly. Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. If there's no further discussion, we'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Anything of an urgent late nature, Mr Executive Manager?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very, very much. Let's go to page 313, the Environmental Services Department report, 14.1, Camping at Lakes and Tenery, the Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the report is as written. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Acting Director. Councillors, you see the report there and a recommendation there for you to consider that Council ratify the decision of the General Manager to approve temporary camping at Lakes and Tenery in association with Temora Girl Guides Canoeing Day on Saturday the 9th of November 2024. Councillor Smith.
Approve.
Thank you. Councillor Smith has moved the recommendation. Seconded. Councillor Hawken moved. Seconded. Discussion. If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Over to page 314, 14.2, Lakes and Tenery Pedestrian Bridge. The Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report is seeking council support to add weight to our request that we seek a variation for the delivery of the Lakes and Tenery pedestrian bridge. So as you will note in the report, we have previously tried to seek a variation, but that has not been supported. So following advice from the General Manager, we have written this report to seek council's support in the hope that that will achieve some success with the New South Wales Government. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Perhaps another addition that Council may wish to consider is at point 3 that we also seek support, Council seeks support from the New South Wales member for Cootamundra. I think that would be fairly crucial. So you're happy to include that in your recommendation?
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Acting Director. Councillor Dukic, wish to move that way? Yeah, thank you. Is there a second? Councillor Irvine, you're seconding? Thank you. Councillor Irvine has seconded the motion with that inclusion of point 3 that Council seeks support from New South Wales member for Cootamundra, Ms Cook. I go to discussion on the motion. Councillor Irvine.
Just a question to the Acting Director. Has there been any alternative engineering considered whereby these footings can be installed with the lake at its current water level, driving some piles or transporting in a preformed concrete footing?
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. You're deferring?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I defer to the Manager.
Thank you. The Executive Manager of Engineering Services.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Listen, we've considered sheet piling only in an effort to be able to, excavate the footings, but the footings are substantial. They're about 1 metre wide and about 8 metres long, and that's required just due to trying to get the bridges above the flood level and so the footings go quite some distance into the water, and to go with sheet piling, we just do not have anywhere near the budget to use sheet piling to create a sealed area and then excavate through that, and also you've got to be able to position the excavators and stuff like that. So I definitely have considered it, but don't think it's possible. And I've spoken to a couple of senior guys at the Lakes and Tannery Management Committee, and they're okay with the idea of getting the water level lower at the back end of the ski season to try and finish this job off. It's just a question of whether we're going to have the grant funding available to do it, because at this point it finishes on the 31st of December.
Thank you, Mr Executive Manager. Look, councillors, I know it's frustrating for us, it's frustrating for our staff as well in the community, but at the end of the day, it's no one's fault. But if council consider supporting this motion that's before you, we will very actively work hard to have that crucial extension. Councillor Mann, you sit on the Lakes and Tannery Management Committee.
Yeah, Mr Mayor. When will we be able to get a reply on the request for extension?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Mann. The Acting Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So I am in contact with the grants body. They actually did contact me yesterday to find out that are you definitely going to finish this by the end of December, and I have not responded yet, given that I knew this was coming to the council meeting. So they are responsive, but they do seem firm at this point that they're not willing to grant an extension. And that was the purpose of this report, to try and see council's weight behind the need for the variation, and taking up the Mayor's suggestion, we would seek the support of the member for Cootamundra to assist us. But there is still no guarantee that the variation will be granted. So if we don't have a decision, or if we're advised that they're not supportive of that, we will have to reassess that and decide what to do if we must finish by the end of the calendar year.
Thank you. Councillor Mann?
Yep. Do I have to press that, do I?
Yeah. So you're finished?
No.
All right, Councillor Mann, you've got the call.
In the discussion the other night, we do realise what's going on, or the LCMC do, and if it needs to be lowered, the discussion was around let's lower the water, get the job done, because we'll definitely pick up summer storms rather than miss out on the funding.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Did you have a response to the Acting Director? The Acting Director, did you have a response?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, that will definitely be taken on board if it does come to that situation, which we hope it does not, but if it does, it's good to know that that is on the table at least.
Yeah, thanks very much. Did the Executive Engineering Manager, did you wish to chime in?
Listen, I need to say that this job's been extremely difficult from day dot, and it's not getting any simpler. And I think that there's a few hoops to jump through. Even if we get this extension, with the idea of potentially lowering the level of the lake, we'll probably have to seek approval to do that. So I think watch this space, but I think the start is if we don't get this extension now, we're going to forego some money. And if that does happen, the next step will be we just wait until the lake's naturally low, if the money is foregone. If we can get an extension, then that's when we think about, how do we make this happen in the grant time frame?
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Irvine.
Just a question to the engineering manager. Has any thought been given to placing preformed concrete footings into the lake as is?
Thank you. The engineer.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Listen, the design's been done by a structural consultant, and we made a slight change to the height of the bridge, and it cost $1,500. I don't think it is possible, but we can ask. We can see what other solutions they may have. The biggest issue that we have is that the southern crossing has to go on the eastern side of the two big gum trees in the water because of the power lines, and that puts us in, probably up to 3 foot of water, which is just, it's not possible, and there's no room to manoeuvre. It's very, very, very difficult.
Thank you. Well, if there's no further discussion, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. And councillors, rest assured that we will enact that decision swiftly. Dare I say, immediately. So thank you. And thanks, Councillor Mann, for the advice from the Lakes and Tenora Management Committee. Councillors, let's go over to page 318, 14.3, planning proposal, Area Park, completion of exhibition. Now, I understand we need a show of hands, of course, when it comes time to consider recommendation voting, of course, being a planning matter. I go to the Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report is on the completion of the public exhibition of the rezoning of a section of Area Park Village. So we received submissions from government agencies, and in response to that, I have included additional wording within the planning proposal, but the report is there for Council's consideration.
Thank you, Madam Acting Director. Councillor Judd, you should be very, very pleased, I would think. Councillor Judd.
Yes, Mr Mayor. This is something we tried to bring back way back in 2010, but Councillor today decided to go with an outside consultant and then went the other way, and now it's taken all those years to correct the situation, and yes. And then it's been held up in recent years by the flood study. We had to wait for that as well. So as I've always said on council, if you're going to be on council, you've got to have a lot of patience. So it's, anyway, and you've got to stick around to get the benefit sometimes. So I hope I can see the benefit one day, what they're trying to do. So anyway, I think it's good news, and hope it might motivate things to happen.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Councillor Judd. You know the old saying, victory belongs to the most persevering. Councillors, you have the report there for you to consider. There is a recommendation at the bottom of page 322 on the top of page 323 that Council make the amendment to the Temora Local Environmental Plan as exhibited to land located at Area Park Village as detailed within the report, and further refer the draft LEP to the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure to make the map amendments. Councillor Judd.
Yeah, happy to move, Mr Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Judd has moved that way. Seconded. Sorry, Councillor Judd.
Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Smith. Second the motion. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Is there further discussion? We will. Yeah. Yeah. There's a planning matter. So further discussion, sorry, before I put it to the vote, further discussion, Councillor Irvine.
I can't see any reference. Were there any submissions put in by members of the public from Area Park?
I think there were. Of the Acting Director.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, there was no written submissions. I did have several conversations with landowners who called me and asked for clarification, but they decided it wasn't warranted to have a written submission.
Thank you. It does allude to that on the bottom of page 319, Councillor Irvine, but again, there's a lot of pages there, so we can be forgiven for missing a few things. So moved, Councillor Judd, seconded Councillor Smith, that we adopt the recommendation. It is a planning matter, so I'll ask to show hands. So all those of that opinion, please raise your hands. So I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much, and well done. Now, councillors, let's proceed to page 379, 14.4. Another planning proposal, scoping report, Goldfields Way. The Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report is known as a scoping report. So it is a pre-planning proposal report. So The landowner has approached council. They have engaged a consultant to assist them with the process. They have put forward an initial request to see council's preliminary support for the proposal of the rezoning as it is outlined in the report. At this stage, we are at the stage of consulting on a preliminary basis with government agencies, and they will have until mid-January next year in order to give their preliminary feedback. But this time it is a preliminary notice to council of the interest of this landowner to support the rezoning of this precinct. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Acting Director. Just to remind council that this was one of those that this blessed, we can genuinely say hand on heart, there was a computer glitch, and so just a reminder that on your screen is what it should have. It was missing from, or I think items recommendation 1 and 2 were missing, so that number 1 was council provide in principle support for the scoping report. Number 2, provide any preliminary feedback to the applicant, and of course receive a future report once a planning proposal is submitted by the applicant. So I thank the Director of Administration Finance for sending out those clarifications for us. So council, you have the report there for you to consider and the recommendation. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that recommendation just read out.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair has moved that. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Judd seconded the motion. Moved, seconded, discussion. Councillor Irvine.
This is a surprise in some respects. Should there be consideration given to adding additional parcels of land to be scoped in this at this stage? There's a large area there that's directly north of the golf course that goes up to I can't make out what that street is, but anyway, that's all still zone primary production. We're sort of, I'm just trying to figure out where this comes from. It's basically planning being driven by a landowner, and I thought the LEP would have taken care of stuff like this. So it's just a bit unusual. There seems to be multiple landowners involved in this, but one person who's putting it forward. So I don't know whether they're bankrolling the whole process or whether it's a joint venture between the group of landowners. There's just some unusual parts to it that I'm still trying to get my head around.
Yeah,
So I suppose the first question is it a consortium with Mr Kerry being the spokesperson in terms of the funding? And would there be consideration to other parcels of land that are closely related to this in that area? And then further, obviously this is going to have a fair impact on the recently adopted flood study, and what provisions are going to be taken to have it assessed in that light.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Does the Acting Director have any comment in response?
So through you, Mr Mayor, so my understanding is, so there is a lead landowner, and I'm not privy to the financial situation, but I do know that he has been in contact with all of the landowners that are shown as being affected by the scoping report, but I do not know the situation in terms of payment, but that's probably not relevant to council's decision making. So in relation to, so part of the land is identified in the housing strategy, which is the land that's proposed to be zoned R1, as shown there. So it's a scoping report that extends that area, which includes an R5 proposed zone. In relation to the land that Councillor Irvine has identified, which is to the north of the golf course. So again, that land was also in the long-term housing strategy for investigation. It is affected by the flood study. So now that we do have the flood study, which is coming to council for the December council meeting, we will be in a stronger position to see if there are other areas that we need to reconsider or review as part of the housing strategy now that we have this information. But essentially this report was driven by the landowners, so involved with preparing the scoping report, and the landowners that are north of the golf club have not been involved, but they are separated by an area of Crown land that's vegetated. So there is some separation of the two areas, but yeah, I do note Councillor Irvine's point that there is some proximity with those two areas.
Thank you, Madam Acting Director. But again, I remind, pardon me, the Chamber that the suite of recommendations that we're being asked to consider is not necessarily, it's not committing us. It'll come back before Council to be seriously considered and teased out. So thank you very much. Councillors, you have a report and recommendation there for you to consider. Councillor Judd?
Just a comment, Mr Mayor. As someone that's been around the table for a while, looking at zoning times over a number of years, I always thought that both sides of Junior Road would be the high preference to be developed years ago, but it never ever happened, and it's, so it's taken all this time, people seem to want to go to the other side and look at Narrabri Hills and all this way, but going on other towns, I thought being out towards Wagga would have been the way to go, but anyway, so just a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Judd. Now your reflections, that's, yes, a good point. Well, councillors, you have the recommendation there for you to consider, but again, I remind you, it's providing in principle support, and that we will receive a future report if this recommendation is passed for us to consider in more detail. Motion, Councillor Irvine.
Is it proposed that there's going to be a housing workshop early in the new year?
Well, the General Manager, do you have a comment in response to Councillor Irvine?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, we've got a number of matters that we would like to brief councillors on moving forward, but no, we've not necessarily had a specific workshop on that. We have done that briefing around what is happening from a strategic perspective across the Shire, and shared information in relation to that with councillors.
Thank you. Councillors, you have a recommendation there for you to consider, or is there an alternate view? Someone prepared to move the recommendation, or is there an alternate view?
You've got Sinclair, Judd.
As Sinclair, Councillor Sinclair, the Deputy Mayor, you're moved that way, and Councillor Judd, you've seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? There's no further discussion on the motion. I will put the motion to you, and if you're planning matter, we ask for a show of hands, please. So all those of that opinion, please raise your hands. The contrary, no. Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. But just remember, councillors, that we will have a further report back for us to tease out. Thank you very much. Let's go over to page 414, 14.5. Very exciting planning matter for council to consider. Proposed multi-unit housing, Apollo Place, Temora. The Acting Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So as councillors are aware, so this is the development application for the multi-unit housing development at Apollo Place. We received no submissions at all from any residents or adjoining neighbours. It's there for council's decision.
Thank you, Madam Acting Director. Councillors, you have the detailed report there for you to consider. And it's a suite of recommendations. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, as I said, this is a great thing to see. It's been, the block of land has been sitting there for years and years, underutilised, and actually I remember not long after I was in council getting the asset and operations committee one day, giving them a call in there, have a look and said, yeah, this is something the council should be looking at, and yeah, nothing went from there, so it's good to see it's finally happened. So, yeah, I'm quite happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you. Just councillors, for you in your paper copy, I think you'll note on your screen that we've just, besides Mr Gallagher's name, who's the chairman of the committee, we have on behalf of the Dr Parry Memorial Homes Board. So just to make sure that that's clarified, that it's not Mr Gallagher personally, that it's on behalf of the Dr Parry Memorial Homes. Seconded, Councillor Smith.
Yep.
Thank you. Moved, seconded, discussion. No discussion. You're right, Mr Deputy Mayor, that, you know, it is exciting to see something that, well, obviously that you thought about years ago. And again, like Councillor Judd, if you're around long enough, you'll get to see it. So that's terrific to see. Terrific to see that Dr Parry Memorial Homes, they've done fantastic things for housing in Temora Shire, and I'm just glad that Temora Shire have worked closely with them in their works where appropriate and possible. So I'm going to put the motion, councillors, a very important motion, again another planning matter, so I will ask you to show of hands. So all those of that opinion, please raise your hands. To the contrary, no. Declared unanimously. Thank you very, very much. So, Madam Acting Director of Environmental Services, you've had a busy evening. Do you have anything of an urgent, late nature?
No, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go, councillors, over to page 427, the Department of Administration Finance Report 15.1, Audited Financial Statements 30 June 2024. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report's as written. Council will recall that the draft statements were put to Council last month, and you heard a presentation earlier in the meeting from our auditors in relation to the statements. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, you have the report there before you. You've heard from our auditors. In commending the Director again and your team on the job that you've been doing for us, I know I raise it regularly and sound like a broken record, but do you have concerns in relation to even though it's a very good result, all things considered, but do you have concerns in relation to the unrestricted reserves?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we could always have more. Yeah, yeah, it'd be good to be able to build them up. But it's pretty challenging at the moment with our revenue raising capability fairly well constrained.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. Councillors, you have a recommendation there for to consider on 427 that Council receive and note the financial statements and audit reports for the year end of 30 June 2024 as an alternate view. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Mayor, happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. It's moved that way. Seconder, Councillor Hawken. Thank you. Moved, seconded. Further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. And again, it just further shows that we've got to stand firm when we believe that we're right. And again, well done to all of our finance team. Councillors, we go all the way over to page 538, 15.2, the quarterly budget review for quarter ending 30 September 2024. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report's as written. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. You have the report there in front of you, councillors. I again took the opportunity to have a meeting with the General Manager and Director just to seek some clarity in relation to several matters, which I'm content with the responses. Is there comments, discussion? You have the recommendation there for Council to consider on page 540 that Council receive and note the quarterly budget review statements for the quarter ending 30 September 2024, or if there's an alternate view. In your hands, councillors, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Move the recommendations to me on
Thank
page
you.
540.
Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair has moved the recommendations. Seconded, Councillor Judd. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. No discussion. I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. And again, well done, Madam Director, to you and the team, and we mean that most sincerely. Councillors, let's now proceed over to page 553, 15.3, Code of Conduct Statistics. The Director.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report is a requirement of the procedures for the administration of the Code of Conduct, and I'm happy to take any questions on it.
Thank you, Madam Director. Councillors, you have the report there before you, and you have a recommendation on the bottom of page 553 that Council receive and note the reporting statistics, the Code of Conduct complaints about councillors and the General Manager in accordance with Part 11 of the procedures for the administrative of the Model Code of Conduct. Administration. The administration of the Model Code of Conduct, just with that slight amendment. Councillors, you have the report there. Is someone prepared to move the recommendation or is an alternate view?
Yes, Mr Mayor,
Councillor Smith, sorry, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
I move the recommendation on the bottom of page 553.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Smith. Thank you. Moved, seconded, discussion. Councillor, the Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
So this shows a marked increase on the expenditure from last year. Last year's expenditure was 28,525. This year's expenditure is a further 40,933 for a grand total $69,458 expended by council in pursuit of these matters, not to mention the time expended by others and obviously the person who's been involved in this stuff as well. So it comes at a huge expense. To what end? No one knows. There's still further outstanding matters to be dealt with by the OLG hanging over from this, which we wait expectantly for, although it doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon. I don't know whether there'll be additional costs associated with that, but pert near $70,000 of ratepayers' money. I don't see any value in it.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. The one thing that I will say very plainly and very clearly is that this council will not tolerate any rot of any kind. And if there is a breach, then that will be reported no matter from whom. So that is what will happen, because it will send a very clear message to councillors, to staff and to the community that we will not tolerate poor behaviour or that anything that is in breach of the code. And I'd be very careful, Councillor Irvine, I'd be very, very careful.
This process clearly suits the investigators. Number one, Kath Roach, when she did the councillor inductions, was quite happy to tell everyone that she'd been involved in over 1,000 of these. So the income generated for these Code of Conduct reviewers is ridiculous. If you consider that every one of those was worth $10,000, then there's a turnover there for Kath Roach or her employer or associates at the time of $10 million of ratepayers' money.
Councillor Irvine, you know that it's not appropriate to be talking on
That was at the
this.
councillor induction. It was an open day, and the statement was that
Well-
she'd been involved in over 1,000 of these matters.
So, what I would say, Councillor Irvine, is if councillors behaved in accordance with the code, we would not have to expend the time and money in which we're doing. And that is the end of the matter. There is a...
Oh, there's no, that's exactly right. There is no opportunity for the accused to have any of the
Councillor
evidence
Irvine,
tested
it is
in any
not
of these matters, is
appropriate.
there?
Councillor Irvine, you do not have the call.
No, I haven't in the whole process.
You do not have the call. So
No,
if you can
in
turn
4
off
of
the
them I haven't had a
microphone.
call. 4. There you are, 4 of them.
Councillor-
You don't get a call. As the accused,
I put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Anything of an urgent, late nature, Madam Director?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you very much. Let's go to page 558, correspondence 16.1, Temora Greyhound Racing Club, the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, we've received a request for consideration of sponsorship from the Temora Greyhound Racing Club. The information's available for Council's consideration.
Thank you very much, Madam General Manager. Councillor Irvine. Oh, no. Councillors, you have the report in front of you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Yes, Mr Mayor. As I said, we have supported the Greyhound Racing Club in the previous year for sponsorship. They're a club that's really gone ahead in the last few years. They bring a tremendous number of people to the town, and I think it's well worth supporting them to the $500. I'll move that way.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor's moved that way. Seconded, Councillor Smith. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. Just in discussion, I support the Deputy Mayor's words, and the amount of money, it is just phenomenal that they bring in terms of prize money, wages. They punch above their weight, and I certainly fully support the motion before Council. If there's no discussion, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Any urgent late items of correspondence for Council to consider, Madam General Manager?
No, through you, Mr Mayor. No, there isn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, we go to page 561, business with notice. We have nil. Notice of motion, we have nil. Urgent business without notice. No. Thank you very much. Councillors, over to page 562. Motion, please receive the councillors' information paper. A lot of information there for councillors to peruse. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, has moved that way. Seconded, Councillor Judd. Thank you. Moved. Seconded. Discussion. No discussion. I'll put the discussion on the motion. Councillor Judd.
Got a question to the Executive Engineering Manager. Just on page 578, just the report of works. Could I just get an update on the Puckland Corner project, Mr Manager? And are we going to actually reshape the actual road, or just two sides?
Thanks, Councillor Judd. We go to the Executive Engineering Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, it's a full road reconstruction. So the first stage was drainage works and shoulder widening, and we're just waiting until after harvest and Christmas to undertake the pavement works, and then there'll be safety barrier installed at the back end of that. So the pavement works will commence in late January, early February.
Thank you, Mr Manager. Thanks, Councillor Judd. No further discussion on the motion. I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. So, no other items to highlight. Information paper? No. Councillors, in accordance with Yes, councillors, we will have a recess for 5 minutes and then we will resume and commence our confidential business of council. Thank you. Resume into open council, and I would advise that the following motions have been brought forward from closed session into open, and I'd invite the General Manager to please read the resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Whilst we were in confidential, it was resolved that the Assets and Operations Committee reports held on the 12th of November 2024 be received.
What's wrong?
In relation to that.
Sorry, I've got it now. In relation to report REP 24941, it was resolved that the lease agreement with Levity commences from the 1st of February 2025. It was resolved that the remainder of the reports and recommendations as presented within that report be adopted. In relation to the minutes of the Economic Development Committee held on the 12th of November, it was resolved that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted. In relation to the report regarding ratepayer hardship, it was resolved that Council turn off future interest charges and cease any debt collection action on the account for a maximum period of 2 years. In relation to Aboriginal land claims, it was resolved that Council advise the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure that Council raises no objection to the Aboriginal land claims identified in the report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Madam General Manager. Councillors, you've heard those motions from closed session, and I would ask that someone please move that those be formally adopted in open council. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, and Councillor Dukic moved, seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. On the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Well, I can't believe this. There being no further business before council, I thank you all very, very much for your attendance and your contributions, and I declare the meeting closed.